Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the greatest recordings ever. And today we're talking about Haitink's Bruckner 7th. Well, which Haitink Bruckner 7th, you may very well ask, and I wouldn't blame you, because he recorded it, I don't know, 5, 6 times, who knows. There's two with the Concertgebouw, one with Bavarian Radio, one with Chicago, one with Netherlands Radio. It's absolutely kooky, how many recordings there are. And it was just, he was his own worst enemy when it came to that stuff. I've talked many times about that wonderful interview he gave to Gramophone where he talked about, people make too many recordings, and then he goes on to make too many recordings. It was ridiculous. So this one is his second with the Concertgebouw. Now, the first one, which is good, but like a lot of his early work, it was a very early recording in his tenure with Concertgebouw, it's a bit underplayed. He was a conductor who took a little while to mature, and he was always somewhat introverted and unwilling to, let the music just erupt the way it should. He had a glorious orchestra to work with, and when he let them do their thing, they were marvelous. But how much he actually contributed, he grew into the role. Let's put it that way. And he did. There's no question that he did. Anyway, here he grew. This one is from 1978. It fell between the cracks. It's a crack recording. So many recordings fall between the cracks, but it just goes to show how crazy the business was, because this fell between the cracks in every possible way to crack up. First, you have the fact that his first Bruckner cycle was already done, and people were, bought the box, and you could get the 7th individually. It came in a beautiful sort of, two-disc thing with the Bruckner Te Deum as a coupling. It was a very pale and not very great recording of the Te Deum, because there was the Concertgebouw had a terrible organ at the time. It still does, I think. But anyway, maybe it's been fixed. You'll tell me, I'm sure. Anyway, it was not a great Bruckner 7th. So then he redid this, and this was the full flush of his maturity as a conductor. He was still young and vital, and he wasn't as uninteresting, let's face it, boring as he was when he was just starting out with the Concertgebouw. And it is glorious and magnificently recorded. And here's the other way it fell between the cracks. This is the thing that really drives you crazy. Phillips always had issues recording in the Concertgebouw. It's a very unusual acoustical space. They weren't able to put bass in their recordings until much, much later in the 70s, but they did eventually. They figured out how to get some bass in there. And by the time this was made, in 1978, they were making gorgeous recordings all through the 70s. They made beautiful recordings in the Concertgebouw. But this is 1978. Do you remember what happened around 1978, 1979? Digital. Yes, digital. And Philips, of course, was one of the labels that was a pioneer in the production of digital recordings, and their first digital recordings sucked. Most of the major labels made horrible sounding recordings with the new technology. They weren't used to it. They were just dreadful. And Haitink started remaking stuff digitally. He remade his 8th, which sounded horrible. He remade the Mahler 7th, which sounded horrible. He did Bruckner 9, not quite so horrible, but his first one was really, really good, and it wasn't better, it was just slower. And so this thing shows up the year before, basically, digital recordings started to be made, sounding magnificent. But nobody cared, because everybody was drooling and panting, and the labels were promoting and screaming about the glories of digital recording, and his Bruckner 8th showed up, which was horrible. And so this just fell by the wayside. It was always hard to find, always hard to get. Now, ironically, it's easier to find than it was ever before, because it got reissued in Japan and some other places, and so it exists. on CD again, if you can find it, probably. But you have to make sure you get the one from 1978. What does it have? It has that the other one didn't. First of all, the entire performance has greater depth. It's more considered. It has better detail. The orchestral playing is superior. The sonics are immeasurably finer. The adagio is stunning. The climax is transcendental. It's really, really marvelous. The pacing is just about perfect. Now, Haitink went on to make some fabulous Bruckner sevenths in Chicago and other places. I mean, he kept doing it. He really did. But for that special sound of the Concertgebouw, which still existed in 78, it doesn't now. But in 78, I mean, they still had the great woodwinds, but Bruckner doesn't care about woodwinds. It's brass. And the Concertgebouw brass was always very individual. They had a tightly focused trombone sound, horns that were not those whooping Viennese things. They blended as well with the wind section as they did with the brass. Nice piercing trumpets, a nicely differentiated brass sonority. And you hear all of that here. Absolutely magnificently recorded and focused by Haitink. So, if you can find the 1978 Haitink Concertgebouw Bruckner 7th, grab it. Of course, it's in the big Haitink box that came out a while ago, but probably has been deleted after the first 5 minutes. Finster is sitting here. What do you want? What do you want? Oh, I know. Okay, so anyway, yeah, grab it. It's amazing. It's simply amazing. I mean, you owe it to yourself to hear it. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.